And just when we thought it couldn't get worse, it ended up getting worse. I've made a few videos on the Palworld incident, and I heard that it ended in such a really bad turn for Palworld. But apparently it's a lot worse than I expected. So we're gonna watch this video called the Massive Nintendo versus Palworld Lawsuit Update, which is absolute insanity, and we're gonna see just what the frick is going on and give some insight into what's been happening with this lawsuit. Without further ado, let us begin.
Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video, and we gotta talk about the update to the Palworld and Nintendo lawsuit. Nintendo is fighting. They are fighting to bring Palworld down however they can. Windows Central has a pretty incredible article up by Jennifer Young published yesterday. Nintendo is applying for anti-Palworld patents in the US with a whopping 22 of 23 rejected, but they are fighting. Nintendo's ongoing patent infringement.
Wait a moment. Wait a damn minute. So Nintendo's applying for the anti-Palworld patents in the US with a whopping 22 out of 23 rejected, but they are still fighting. Let's just talk about the significance of that for a moment, right? So Nintendo, as when I've covered on these videos previously, we have deducted, right, that there are patents, right? Companies have patents for certain things in the game that allow them to keep the rights of certain, like, game mechanics, for example. So in this case, Nintendo had a patent for, like, catching things in a ball, right? Because that's where the comparison is Palworld and Pokemon, right? The interesting thing about these patents is that a lot of the patents that they were trying to get Pocket Pair for, Pocket Pair is Palworld, they're trying to get Pocket Pair for, were patents that they have established only after, or during the lawsuit. Like, literally the year of, they decided to sue after Palworld had come out and not before. So that leaves some complications, right? Anyone looking at this is going to be like, bro, you literally made these patents so you can sue us. So you can get money from us. Like, that's exactly what the situation is. So now, those patents are established really in Japan. For the most part, I think the majority of the patents are in Japan. So now Nintendo is coming to the United States, and now trying to get the anti-Palworld patents, as they're being called now. And the US was like, nah, bro. This one out of the 23 that you sent us looks okay, but the rest of them, these 22, is complete BS. But they are still fighting. That is absolutely insane to me.
Nintendo's ongoing patent infringement lawsuit against Pocket Pair. Creators of Palworld has primarily been confined to Japan so far, where they are seeking over $66,000 in damages for 3 patent claims. But could this legal battle soon extend to the US? Recent developments suggest that Nintendo may be preparing for something similar of a fight on American soil. It appears that Nintendo will have a much harder fight on its hands in the US, though, with GameSpray reporting that the United States Patent and Trademark Office, USPTO, rejected 22 of 23 of Nintendo's patent complaints. Now, a lot of it does seem to be the patents are tailored for Palworld, and like, you could say that, hey, they're just filing these patents for whatever reason. Based on its history, US patent number 1217911 could be a product of Nintendo's Palworld-oriented patent activity. According to its history, Nintendo filed for it on May 2nd, 2024, a few months after Palworld's launch, and I find that to be so interesting.
It's exactly what we were talking about before. This is exactly the sources that I needed to bring up, so thank you.
The timing of all of this, and it was granted on December 31st, 2024. Now, on December 4th, 2024, Nintendo received a notice of final rejection from the patent examiner. Now, final is not literally final in the terms of end of story. Even if a rejection is declared final, the party applying for the patent can modify the claims and ask for a continuation of the examination. It can
So let's also talk about what that means, right? So just because it was rejected, or there is a final rejection of the claim, right? It doesn't mean that, okay, you can't go ahead and reapply for this. You can change the wording, you can change slight things, and then you can have it be brought up again. So this whole theme of, oh, we're still going to fight this, it comes off as if Nintendo is trying to find a loophole away into getting these things accepted and trying to get any leverage that they can on Pocket Pair.
Can also appeal the rejection of the patent trial and appeal board, which is likely an in-house of the USPTO, and from there, one can theoretically appeal further to the United States Court of Appeal. So obviously, they aren't giving up, and even if 22 of 23 claims are rejected, guess what? That's 22 of 23. That's not all 23, and they could continue adjusting and filing a lot of different things. And I'll leave the link in gamespray.com because this article does a great job of going over the legal ramifications, which your boy did not go to law school. I'm not trying to break down the legality of patents and all that kind of stuff. Now, first, why 23 claims? It's only half accurate. One actually sues over one more patent claims. A product can even infringe dozens of claims from a single patent. That won't mean the patentee gets dozens of times more money, but it has other implications. In general, the more claims an accused service of product infringes, the better for the patent holder. One simple reason for which it is good that even if one or more claims turn out to be invalid, you may still have one or more left that survive, essentially throwing as much crap at the wall and hoping some of this stuff sticks, even if not all of this stuff sticks.
Something's better than nothing.
About, like, the push towards live service games. I feel like patenting is kind of similar to that. Get as many patents on the board, and hey, as long as we get a couple W's here, that's gonna cause an issue for Palworld in totality. And it's so interesting because as far as what Nintendo is trying to patent, they are retroactively trying to patent smooth switching of riding objects. Again, the terminology and the verbiage used in the patents, I feel like, is such a big part of it because
100%.
A little word adjustment here and there, and who knows who is actually doing the approval process. Is it somebody that is well-versed in what's going on with Palworld? Do they know anything about gaming and Palworld and Nintendo going after Palworld? I don't know. Does anybody know? Who knows?
We're going to talk about that real quick. And why is that important, right? Why is that important that the legal system has any idea what's going on and the significance of what this means for the gaming industry as a whole? It doesn't matter. Does it play in our favor? Does it not? In my personal, unprofessional, but concerned opinion, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I actually prefer, just for the sake of legality, for the sake of fairness, for the sake of not, especially in America, where there are laws that protect against companies having a monopoly. I think it is good that the legal system is as detached from the situation and the drama that surrounds these two franchises in its entirety. I think that just makes everything fair. I think that makes everything stable. I think that makes everything, everyone's treated fairly in this. Everybody is looking at this with unbiased eyes. But apparently it's getting worse. So maybe it really doesn't help, even with that being said. Do I doubt Nintendo has someone on the inside? I don't know. American Systems has been known to kind of have some undercover scummy things, and I wouldn't put it past Nintendo or any big company really to go ahead and be like, hey, like I'm gonna drop you a few bans if you just help me, pass this patent, just accept this patent and I'll take care of you and your loved ones. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, it's weird. It's weird. If it's one thing, right, if they're not persuaded by the drama, one thing American legal systems are persuaded by is money. Not to say that every system's corrupt, but there has been instances in the past, I think in every place, to be honest, where that kind of thing kind of comes in handy. And if Nintendo's really that desperate, right, if they are really, really that desperate, I wouldn't hold it past them to be like, hey, you can get money out of this if you just help me out. So who knows? Well, who freaking knows?
Like, that's all stuff that I feel like if you just keep trying and trying to file a patent, eventually, through sheer stubbornness, you might get something through. I really do believe this can happen because, a lot of the times, in a lot of facets, when you just keep trying and keep persisting, making minor adjustments here, right day, right time, all of a sudden things get approved. Are you guys gonna tell me something like that wouldn't happen? As long as you're continually persistent, you might have a chance to get something through. And
I've also seen the opposite, though. I've also seen the opposite, where people are just as annoyed. It's like, oh, it's the same part. You know, when you have that customer, that customer that comes in and they complain about the same thing over and over and over again. And it just gets to a point where you're like numb to it and you just ignore it. Or you also become numb to it and you give them what they want. You know, I think it happens two different ways. Like, it's either you're the kind of person where it's like, all right, sure, fine, whatever, just shut up. Or you're the kind of person where it's like, no, like, get this person out of here. Like, I'm not dealing with this shit today. You know what I mean? So it's either or I guess it really depends on the professionalism of Nintendo to really dictate how this sways. But knowing Nintendo, knowing how they never lost a lawsuit before, they could definitely have that professionalism, quotations over professionalism.
And all of the points to this go back to the same thing. Palworld was a game that was in development and we knew had been coming out for a very long time. And I remember covering the game back in like June of 2023. I remember when I initially saw this game and I was like, man, when I first saw the game, I was like, if they don't run into legal trouble and this game actually comes out, that'll be fantastic. And a lot of people came out and told me, being like, hey, there's no actual legal infringement here. Yeah, the designs are similar, but fundamentally from a gameplay standpoint, this game is totally different. And I would like to believe that, but I also know how Nintendo plays when it comes to things in situations like this. I just had the feeling that, hey, maybe for a long time, Nintendo saw Palworld and they were like, okay, yeah, they perceive the game to be ripping us off, or they view that game to be ripping them off, even though gameplay-wise it's so different, but I digress. They perceive it to be that, but you
can understand from the ripping off things, if you look at the designs from a lot of these pals, as they call it in the Palworld game, and if you compare them to Pokemon, they are very, very similar. Very, 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 very similar. And I think more people would be understanding if Nintendo were to sue for the likeness of the pals to Pokemon. A lot of them are very similar. I've done streams and I've done previous videos where we looked at the comparison between them, and it's literally, it's the same. It's very, very identical, you know? And that sort of stuff is like, all right, man, you gotta watch yourself. You're treading on you're treading on, like, you know, what's the saying called? Y'all know what I mean. Anyways, treading on thin water, right? That's the saying. I'm pretty sure that's the saying. But yeah, if we all looked at this game and we were like, bro, this is a lot like Pokemon, you know? And if in the back of our heads we were all like, they're probably going to run into some legal trouble, that means there's something wrong, you know? That means there is definitely the possibility of some sort of infringement being done. I'm not saying that Pocket Pair is doing this. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, but the overall roundabout story of what I'm trying to convey is that the inception of, or rather the conception of Palworld had already had people calling it the Pokemon knockoff, you know? And that's just the reality of what it is. And for reasons that we are mentioning in here, but Nintendo took a completely different round and decided we're not going to do it for copyright. We're not going to do it for taking the designs. We're going to do it for patents that we're establishing now. So, which is crazy to me because Nintendo is a far more successful, like, Palworld did amazing, granted. But Nintendo is a far bigger franchise and people are still going to, like, Nintendo fans, Pokemon fans in particular, die-hard fans, man. Even if you've never touched a Pokemon game in your life, you know who Pikachu is. There are going to be people still in this world, right? I think even for years to come where you'll mention a pal and they're going to be like, what? Is that a kind of Pokemon? You know, the nuance and the popularity of Nintendo far outshines Palworld and Pocket Pair. So for Nintendo to kind of bully Palworld like this, it very much feels like a bigger company bullying a smaller one. And for things that really don't make sense, and going back to my other point, it's things that the United States isn't recognizing as something that's worth, you know, keeping a patent or creating a new patent or defending, you know, the majority of the 23 patents that were brought in. So yeah, it's a mess.
They are of the mindset, this will be a flash in the pan, it's not going to do incredibly well, and we'll move on to the next thing. Once the game was a resounding success, that's when you saw the patents being filed. That's when they, like, that patent file was on May 2nd, 2024. The one we just
After the
talked
game
about,
came
patent
out.
number 18652-883,
Yep.
smooth switching of riding objects, May 2nd of 2024. That's 3 months after, or 2.5 months after Palworld hit early access, and a lot of the talk you saw about these patents being filed, it was after Palworld came out. I would have to deduce what happened was Nintendo was like, oh crap, this game is hugely successful. Oh crap, they have a partnership with Sony. They're working with Kraft on a mobile game, although a lot of the patent filed, again, the partnerships came later, but they obviously saw that Palworld was gonna be a threat. It wasn't about to be a flash in the pan. And I say quote-unquote threat. It's not a threat. It's what Nintendo perceives to be a threat.
Exactly. Going back to the point that I was saying before, Palworld is not a threat to the Nintendo franchise, not by a long shot, you know? But any ounce of success, like what I'm saying, like it's like almost like the success of Palworld. It's like you can't be successful at something that we've done, you know? But the reality is other games have used the mechanics that other games have used the mechanics that Nintendo is now patenting. And they have gotten no repercussions, but it's because Palworld has had all this financial support and all this publicity support from other notable companies. Now it's like, wait a moment. Wait a dang minute. You know?
Pokemon's still gonna be gargantuan. There can be multiple players in the space, and I would say why not have Palworld appear on the Switch too? It would do outstandingly well, but I could totally see why Nintendo, from their vantage point, they're like, okay, we're not gonna let this game come out on our platform, and you would rather hope it would be an instance of, yo, you perceive this game to be competition hopefully will drive us forward. I'm not a big Pokemon guy these days, but I have so many friends that are, and they just continually crap on Pokemon. Outside of Legends Arceus, it seems like everything from what I hear, and I can't speak on each Pokemon game with the depth and nuance that I had with the franchise back in the day, but from generally what I hear, it seems like Pokemon is in a period where there is an audience that isn't as engaged into it. They aren't enjoying the Pokemon games as much, but at the end of the day, games come out and they're gonna sell millions upon millions of copies. You just have another player in the space, the survival crafting Mon game with some similar designs, like, Cry Me a River, as far as that one's concerned, about these, the lawsuits and patents. And ultimately, I think this whole situation, it sucks for Pocket Pair, but it has put a little bit more attention on the game. And
that is very true.
One thing, the game peaked at over 2 million concurrent players. It's stabilized, and, after the most recent update, I think it went over 150k. That's still an incredibly successful number. The game made a lot of money, and you would just hope that it's gonna be a player. And look at what Pocket Pair is doing. They're literally trying to start a publishing arm that's gonna publish indie games. They're actually giving back to gaming after the success of Palworld.
That's fantastic.
I find that to be remarkable. Now, I don't know the types of deals that they're striking with indie developers, but I feel like they're trying to do what they can. They've established so much goodwill with this game, and you just want to see a game like this succeed.
Yeah.
And Nintendo coming in to try to quell it, to try to put it down, it's just awful. And I don't know how anybody can be on Nintendo's side, because you as the consumer should always have your selfish best interest in mind.
Very true.
Your best interest shouldn't be Nintendo coming in and cooking Palworld beyond belief so the game can never leave early access and Nintendo does anything to hamper the release of the game. Nobody should want that, because ultimately that'll leave Nintendo in a power position, and they are already in a power position. The Switch 2 is gonna come out, it's gonna sell 1 billion units. The next Pokemon's gonna come out, it's gonna sell 1 billion units. Why would you not want there to be other options, an alternative, if you even want to view it as an alternative, because it's so different than Pokemon?
Exactly that. This is why I really feel like a lot of the patents didn't do well in the States, and weren't getting passed in the States, because America is very big on not having monopolies over things. The feeling or the idea of having choice for the consumer is something that is very ingrained in America's capitalistic culture. So to kind of like use patents to remove the ability for choice, in any sense of the American legal system, the American culture, and just American society. It doesn't bode well for Nintendo. It doesn't bode well for the states to allow something like that to be administered here in that country, you know? So yeah, 100%. It definitely feels like, you know, that Palworld's being bullied. It's what it is. It's bullied. It's almost harassment at this point, but obviously no one's going to call it harassment. No professional is going to call it harassment. They're going to call it an infringement. But yeah.
Idea that both games can coexist is so jarring to me, but it's clear as day that Nintendo feels threatened by the game, which I don't think they should, but
it really
that'll
shouldn't.
do it for me. We'll see how this story plays out. I told you guys that 2025 was going to be a far more pivotal year for Palworld and what transpires with the game than 2024 was, and this lawsuit is going to be a big part of that, the game coming out of early access. There's a lot of nuance to Palworld this year, but that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.
Very, very great video. This video is by Cult of Mush. I'll put their video in the original description. Please show them some love. But yeah, this shit's crazy, man. It's crazy. Pretty much a lot of the stuff that we covered before with some updates for what they were discussing. So it seems like this was happening 4 days ago. So it looks like this stuff is still happening. It's still happening. Looks like they lost the lawsuit in Japan. And they had to, I already saw that in the game, they had to remove a few mechanics in the game. But now they're trying to take it a step further and seeing how that is in the States. And it's just, yeah, I really hope for the best for this game. I hope Palworld doesn't change any more than it already has, just for the sake of not agency, but just for the sake of, choice, you know, chase of variety. That's the word. I'm like variability. Just for the sake of variety, you know, super important, really good for people to have. And yeah, so if you want more updates on gaming news and all that's happening on the lawsuit, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Again, I'll put the link down below, and I appreciate all of you. Stay radiant, miracles. Don't let the big companies bully you. Take care.